We have sped through this game's levels a total of 4 times. Also, yes, pointing out again, only C ranks in Cruelty Squad HQ. It bothers me so much, but it's whatever. We did all these other levels on punishment mode, thankfully. But there's still one more challenge ahead of us.
Uninstalling the game. Oh.
The actual end is soon in sight.
Divine biological trauma.
A strobing headache of the soul.
I feel like Gary Newman would really love this game.
We need to find the cradle of life. Not life itself, which we found in Cruelty Squad HQ.
And find it lacking.
Yes. But this is Trauma Loop. This is the hardest level of the game. No one will disagree with you on this. It's already hard out the gate because any implants that we could equip with are stripped away as soon as we load in.
Yeah, I noticed it said a malign influence strips you of power.
Yep. Very sinister and ominous. I like it. It's on the same tier as when there's an implant you haven't found yet and it says something in the world's waiting for you.
The floor is covered with sans undertales.
Yep. Sweeping weird bullshit Twitter polls or something. Or Tumblr, I fucking forget. I didn't pay attention. I just know that like people started making jokes about it at the time of like the Queen of England's passing. That he somehow just fucking murdered her. But never mind. But never mind what other hells are going on in the British Isles. We got another hell in front of us right now. This fucking gauntlet.
Hey, remember, I'm from Scotland. We couldn't have given less of a shit.
You and Ireland both.
And Wales, but to a lesser degree.
Yeah. So that was a giant flesh rat. There are enemies around here that are ready to shoot us mercilessly as soon as we step out, so I'm being very cautious because after being so used to having the life sensor for all these levels, like, for the first pass, it's like, yeah, no kidding, I am extra paranoid about getting shot at from all sides.
Also, this is proving to be one of the weirder stages simply because it has, like, actual normal architecture.
Even though it's all arranged and in a location that could very easily be as much a dream as it is a real place, but we don't know. Kallio definitely has not elaborated more other than, yes, this happens.
Yeah, this is weirdly at odds with everything else in the game, which is saying something.
Yeah. It's at odds in ways that make sense to you, but still don't make sense.
Yeah. Like, a lot of this game, I think I've mentioned before, but a lot of this game makes sense in an emotional sense, but you try and explain it, and you're like, I'm just gonna say words. Maybe some of them will make sense, hopefully.
Yeah, and in an emotional sense, it does apply well for a level that's literally called Trauma Loop.
Yeah.
It's going to inflict trauma your first time through, and your second, and your 10th.
Yeah.
God damn you, flesh rats!
300 nails.
And because of how brutal this level is, you're actually seeing this in 3 attempts with specific goals for each one. This is the first attempt where I'm not even trying to get to the end, I'm trying to kill someone specific. It is a very dangerous enemy. The worst. It is a psyker with a ZKZ's transactional rifle called the Ambassador. There are, like, different routes you can take to the Cradle of Life, and most of them are outdoors, and he will find you, and he will shoot you. Also, that orb you see there is the Cradle of Life. We can't just biojet our way over there, because doing so, there's a kill plane that if we collide with it is above the ground, and it just kills us instantly. Never mind the fact we were already shot, so I might as well have, like, done the extra damage.
So they've the entire game they've been like, okay, yeah, you can break the game over your knee just in any way you want, and now they're like, no, you're playing it our way.
Yeah, like even the Abominator, funny enough, if you actually activate that, it starts draining your health. Like, it is no joke actively trying to, like, keep you from, like, fucking breaking things apart. Which is, like, you know, that might seem, like, antithetical and terrible to do. But, I mean, it's not like the shooting in this game doesn't feel bad to begin with. It's very satisfying, assuming that you know what to expect and are very good at getting the jump on them. Which, at this point, I'm fairly good at that.
It also makes a lot of sense if you compare it to other games, other immersive sims, because typically, like, 3/4 of the game is, yes, you have the whole world open to you. And then the last, 2 or 3 hours is clearly like, we ran out of ideas. So now
yeah, the last hour is you going through a level that's textured from, like, some composer's colonoscopy.
Yeah, like System Shock 2 or Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The last area of that was just Pangaea, was just atrocious. Yeah. Whereas here, obviously, they're not lacking for ideas, but they're kind of taking the same idea and turning it on its head, funnily enough.
Yeah, doing a lot more to, like, prove a point, and this fucked me up because I forgot about using... I forgot that even though it was very slanted, I was thinking of trying to, like, wait until I touched it to wall jump. I forgot that, like, it was still enough of, like, a floor surface to stand on that it did fall damage, so...
Ouch.
Whoops! But that route is what I still need to go down, all things considered, because... we killed the Ambassador, which is, like, a big priority target due to him not only being able to snipe you with the transactional rifle, but his attack power is the same as yours, in the sense that however much money you have in the stock market determines its power. So if for some reason you didn't want to use, like, if you didn't know he was there, or didn't know how to get there safely... and you didn't want to, like, kill him with, like, the transactional rifle or anything else, because he stays dead after you kill him, you could just sell all of your stocks to 0, and then he would do no damage.
That is some Bloodborne tier bullshit.
Yeah, it's just spending insight. But also, I like it as well because it logically fits with all of the systems that the game has established to you up to this point, you know? Like, the stock market's been an important thing, so naturally, they find a way to, like, turn that aspect against you if you've been playing it smart.
I mean, the game has been, for lack of a better term, consistent.
Yes. I mean, it's consistent while looking like the biggest deep-fried shitpost imaginable. Still the greatest comment that I always see circulated around the internet because it's so true when it came to this game's visuals is that they basically described it as a game where someone thought very consciously about, like, every single, like, visual, like, cue and, like, law of, like, art design, and then spent twice that amount of time finding ways to undo it in a very methodical way.
Kind of like Peter Chung, best known for Aeon Flux.
Yes.
A lot of his art is designed to suggest emotion and movement, even his illustrations. But you look at it and you would be forgiven for thinking it was an ungodly mess.
Yeah, it's like, to no surprise, like generally, like, these days, I always find myself questioning whether or not it was really worth going to college to try and study in the fields that I was hoping I'd get a career in, you know, especially a creative one. And while like the 10,000 loan that will hopefully be forgiven for me at the start of next year, was that was obviously a big thing that made me regret it. One thing that did make me kind of appreciate a weirder part of, like, that aspect of higher education, not the money part, but just engaging with it, was the realization that You learn the stuff from, like, who are considered professionals, not because you need to know that's, like, the way to do it. It's because you need to know what the method is behind it so that you can then create your own method to break it. Because that gives it more credence than just being like, I'm gonna do whatever I feel like, with, like, no thought at all.
I had a t-shirt for the band Pitch Shifter back in the day that just said, learn the rules so you know how to break them.
Yep. Applies to everything. Art, movies, video games. Anything that is like a creative medium. Anyway, we could actually go to the Cradle of Life right now, but I want to do this more in a way that I much more prefer. Because that second NPC we killed was the Limit Chancellor. He was the one responsible for stripping us of our implants.
Ah, okay. So now we can do it fancy style.
Yep. And like the Ambassador, he does not respawn. Like, you have no idea how relieved I was when I was, like, recording this, because this recording was actually my first time I ever did trauma loop for myself, and whatever videos I could find of the game, of this level online, really, there wasn't anything that, like, showed, like, people were giving instructions of, okay, here's the Ambassador and how to kill him. Here's the Limit Chancellor. It was more like, it was already levels of people who knew how to beat the level as quick as possible and just doing that.
That's always annoying.
Yeah.
You wind up following what might be the fastest way of doing it, but not necessarily the best way of doing it.
Pretty much. So now that the Ambassador's dead, we can just take this route and we don't have to worry about not only getting shot with like $1 million powered bolt action rifle, but we also don't have our vision skewed because he's also a psyker.
Of course.
So we get like a fun little gauntlet right here. We have the life sensor equipped, so we are extra prepared for where these goons might be hiding. It's also good that we're coming here as well, because this is the way to get, like, the final implant of the game. Which is... I feel like its design is meant to be on the same tier as the Abominator, but it's not nearly as fun, I think, compared to the Abominator. Even though the way it's designed to be, like, a similar endgame breaking shit type of item makes sense. You'll see it, like, in the final video where it's all the miscellaneous chaos that this game has to offer that I couldn't show beforehand. But you'll kind of see what I mean. It's novel. I'll say that as much.
That's certainly a loaded statement.
One thing I do kind of appreciate about this level is that while, like, everything in the background is so dark, you still see glimpses of the sky, and the texture, like, gives me huge Quake 1 skybox vibes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit more red than it is pale purple, but it's the same kind of... It still looks appropriately like triggering for agoraphobics. Like a lot of holes.
Trypophobia.
Trypophobia. I keep screwing up what all my phobias are. There's way too many. Fuck me.
Yeah, agoraphobia is if you're going outside. I always get it confused with the one of tight spaces.
Oh, tight spaces is claustrophobia. But
yeah,
I guess agoraphobia also makes sense if you were living in this universe and you somehow didn't want to go outside, because look at this.
I mean, I live in this universe and I don't want to go outside. Never mind that one.
Yeah, you don't want to go. You don't want to go outside in a world that still thinks it's important to, like, show the royalty respect.
See, I can't really say too much because people have been getting arrested for holding up signs saying "Not my king" or words to that effect. Yeah. So,
yeah, but we're on the internet. You have anonymity. I don't know your real name. You're perfectly fine. And I'm not even in your country. I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Yes, my name is Dwayne. I'll get him someday, I swear to God.
Alright. That's the biojet. Different from the biothrusters. You can probably guess what that means.
Is that a fucking meat jetpack?
Yes, you guessed right.
Haha! Nice.
Instead of expunging waste horizontally, it expunges it vertically.
Oh, that's literally the only other way they could add any kind of movement options, you know?
Yeah, like a literal jetpack that
Yep.
like has infinite uses because there's fortunately no fuel, as it were. Just as long as you hold the button, you'll fly up.
Because everyone in this game is full of shit.
Yeah, endless shit. Endless excess waste that they have to use wastefully. So much energy.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, that was the last implant. So you think that's all the items that we'd have to collect? Wrong. There's one more weapon. It's not the much like how the Biojet, despite being the last, is not the best implant. This weapon we're getting is not the best weapon, but it is pretty good too. If you're down for that as like an alternative to the transactional rifle. Anyway, we finished that gauntlet and we looped back around to like this area with the giant flesh rats. So we're close to the bottom.
And hopefully not going to die when we get to the bottom this time.
Yeah, we won't. But it does get a bit tense because like the bottom floor of this area is so dark and full of armored enemies that I was initially panicking as to, oh god, will I be able to find this specific location that has the final weapon? I don't know. I'm just gonna bunny hop for my dear life.
I mean, you've got, what, 7 health?
Yeah, 7 health. And I don't have the hazmat suit, so if I get Toxic Crisis even once, I'm fucked. Here we go, this little tower. You'll see it used in action next video, but it is a big laser rifle. It is heavy. It is called the Ironworks Lux or something other. I forget the full title because like the final the full title ends with like a string of like garbage like characters strings or something. It's just a bunch of numbers and letters that like it's not even a hex code. Like that would have been at least simple or something like that. It's just nonsense.
Well, thank God for that, because I was afraid that weapon was going to be incredibly mundane by comparison.
Yep. Here we go. We have reached death. Or rather, we're all marching towards death. This is the final ending of Cruelty Squad. With very descriptive text that I cannot hope to read all of at once, let alone effectively summarize.
Teeth with teeth with teeth. Take a bite.
305837509375093553 operations per nanoseconds.
Born to kill, life is a fuck.
This is getting into opening of I Have No Mouth Am monologue territories.
Yeah.
Just got where's like a deep fake impersonation of Harlan Ellison's voice when you need it just to read over this? Yeah, whatever. We could just hire Gianni to do that. His version of Durandal from Marathon already sounds like Am anyway.
Seriously, the first time I heard it, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Ranger, they're going to turn me into a crypto server! Kill them all! An AI like Durandal absolutely would hate getting used for crypto farming. Even he recognizes this shit has no value. It is volatile every single nanosecond. You people are idiots.
You come to a realization. You pick up an onion and start peeling. Shrek is life. Shrek is love.
You peel every layer. Every single layer. Also, I appreciate all like these just random images that are all just like clearly like what qualify as normal paintings that Kallio would typically do on his own. Like some of them, except for one which looks like the main character, like you can't even discern what they might even have to do with like the ending in question or what's on screen. Onion layer n to the nth power.
It's reminding me of, for anyone that's played Control, the Hiss have a sort of word salad poem that they use to gain access to your brain, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Goes a bit deeper than that, but this is reading a lot like that. That same kind of William Burroughs cut-up poem.
And I believe this next paragraph is, like, the most important one. Probably the most shitposty or not shitposty thing, depending on how you read it. We got some philosophy.
Georges Bataille.
Yep. Clearly, like, either read all of the accursed share or just went onto his Wikipedia page and found, like, the most important paragraph that summarizes his entire philosophy. Because that is, like, the best way to effectively summarize, like, what the entire, like, worldview of Cruelty Squad's universe has been about. If you really want to break it down, besides, you know, like, these days, we all make, like, the sort of jokes and criticisms about, like, capitalism as it is now, how it's absolutely ruinous. We're in the late stage capitalism portion of, like, that entire system. And this kind of goes a bit more to kind of contextualize it as being a bit more than that, while still being just as sinister as the effects of, like, how brutal capitalism can be.
Yeah, it's gone from the late stage capitalism to literal death march capitalism.
Yep. Again, not so subtle that the death orb is in the background as MT Foxtrot and everyone else is walking towards it. Because the theory you could derive from that is that now that you are the most wealthy man in the world, and wealth in Cruelty Squad might as well equate to godlike power, might as well show that he is now effectively broken through, like, the current hell that he created with the first ending, and is finally bringing the world to death. So that it actually has an end.
Oddly,
after
reminds
everyone has had death basically rendered meaningless.
Oddly, it reminds me a bit of the end of The Good Place, where, spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen it, one of the problems that heaven has is continual stagnation. If everyone is fulfilled and happy forever, then what's the point? So they come up with the opportunity for non-existence. You become part of the big circle, the grand cycle all over again, and you've done everything you want to do. You've fulfilled your purpose. Nothing to do but non-existence, but still technically being part of everything.
Also appropriate, that would be the leading theory behind the ending, considering it is the actual end of Cruelty Squad. But also just wrapped around the idea that the whole reason the world got this way is because Georges Bataille described entirely just how energy works in this world, and that it is effectively meant to be spent in any way, regardless of how harmful and wasteful it is. Because with death being rendered as something that's like, it's not the end of everything, you can just revive. It's like, cool, there's a bunch of excess energy that is not leaving this world so that new energy can come in. You know, but like getting back to the problem of like stagnation, but even more like going past just what would be seen as usual stagnation and just literal rotting. Cancer, even. I mean, like, considering what, like, the kind of, like, the how cancer generally works, in that it is, like, unrestrained cell growth, makes sense that unrestrained economic growth would lead to a similar, like, societal issue.
Yeah. Also brings to mind the idea of the heat death of the universe, where the idea is that eventually there will be no motion, no energy in the universe. A lot more complicated than that, but that's, you know, it's not as simple as, like, when you hear that said, it's like, oh, it's not like, oh, it will no longer be warm. Like, no, that's not what he means in this context. Yeah, that's the back of the napkin explanation. But this is kind of like the opposite, in which there's too much energy and nothing to use it on. So everyone just sits around shooting each other and, you know, trying to get through another day.
Yeah. And it's like, that explains enough of, like, the overarching worldview of the game? Does it help explain all of, like, the minor weird things that might still raise questions? No, of course not. And Kallio doesn't give two shits about answering it, like, fully to anyone. He doesn't want that. Like, he's basically going full David Lynch of, like, giving, like, some wild-ass explanation of, yeah, this happens. And someone asking, can you elaborate?
Absolutely no.
He's certainly not. Absolutely no.
Believe it or not, this is my most spiritual game. Please elaborate on that. Absolutely not.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, because, like, we already have Suda, who, like, subscribes to that a lot. Naomi is now a fucking tree in No More Heroes 3. No, I will not answer why.
The thing is, I have heard a couple of explanations to that. General idea, if I remember correctly, is that it is a reference to an anime.
Of course it is. Just like how if it's not an anime, then it's a reference to the Smiths.
Alternatively, because she allows you to power up your abilities, she's a skill tree.
That makes me more upset now.
I just heard the sort of doink, doink, doink. I just got that. The last penny bouncing down the stairs.
Alright, I'm gonna join MT walking into the horizon now. Goodbye, everyone.
It's the best thing for you, man.